The round red button starts it all. A lens, an all-seeing eye. A flashing light blinks as the display shows the souls of the innocent, the guilty, and the deceptive. One can see all the little movements, the subtle muscle impressions made by the face that we don't always see, the tiniest hint of discomfort, joy, or perplexion. One is the omniscient behind the eye of the lens, always watching, hidden in plain sight. The hilarity and ironic value of these facts is realized when the wider perspective is shown, once you zoom the camera out, so to speak. For when you do, you will see more than the video camera situated on a tripod. You'll see me. If I were to tell someone about what I'm actually doing behind my camera, they'd likely call me a voyeur, some sort of deviant. I would be little more than a fiend to them, but they'd be terribly, terribly wrong. The ignorance of such words is funny, because a single glimpse into what I see will be more than enough to quell the comments. The irony presents itself in that one might expect those who like to spy, to pry and peep, to invade privacy and to learn more about people than they know of themselves, to be in prison, or at least to be in the darkest depths of society where they cannot act out these fantasies as brazenly. But again, they'd be so utterly wrong. I get paid for it. Even more bizarrely, people trust me in public settings. So I would implore one to truly assess the situation with me. Here I am, standing at the back of a dining room of a wedding reception, my little blinking light documenting everything that goes on. I've been allowed in this place, hired even. It's wondrous how easy infiltration is. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, the newlyweds, are currently on the dance floor, drunk and disorderly. The ceremony was rather interesting. I videoed that too, drinking in each and every little expression they made as they said their vows. My zoom captures so much. It's utterly fascinating. Every blemish was in full focus as I slowly zoomed inwards to rest on Mrs. Anderson's face. Outside of the camera, she's a woman in her prime, 25 and earning 5 figures, truly a role model and a striking person. But the camera doesn't lie, and I could see it all. I saw the wincing she made as the vows were recited in front of her. I saw she slipped on the ring, how her fingers shook. Underneath it all, she's a rusted and worn has-been. The soul of an old maid inhabits a youthful body. And Mr. Anderson, the personal trainer, I saw that twinkling smile as they were pronounced husband and wife, the one he likely wears when he hits her too. I know he's a sadist. It takes one to know one. That chiseled brown-haired man is a facade, a caricature of masculinity threatening to crumble. They show their true colors to me persistently, and I intend to capture it all. They're doing it now, as they celebrate their marriage to the tune of Losing My Religion on the dance floor. My lens is trained on them, the subtle discomfort when he touches her waist, the desire to peel away. He wishes she was more drunk. Maybe then she'd make him excited. I pan away for a few moments, surveying the guests at the tables, analyzing their movements, the gestures, making for interesting pieces of this puzzle. Sarah, the sister, sits to my left, arms expressing a story she's recounting. I can zoom towards a made-up face, watching the intricacies of the laugh lines upon the face move. It's focused with her in frame now, and separate from the other hubbub in the room. I watch her lips, hearing the sounds when I really concentrate on her. She's talking about a childhood story. Her and Mrs. Shirley Anderson had an altercation, some sort of comedic value involved when the former fell over while arguing as children. The words don't matter though, not as much as her face. The twitch as she mentions her sister's name. Small, tiny lip movements when accepting compliments about her sister's husband. She knows quite a lot. Next, the blinking recording device shifts to the table to the right, where Mrs. Anderson's close friends are all situated, settling on one in particular. A lean man, mousy hair, mild-mannered and polite as he shares a joke with his peers. As I zoom, I notice his eyes flitting to the newlyweds on occasion, struggling to engage with his fellow friends as his focus is drawn elsewhere. Marcus is his name. His words are caught by my ears as I watch his lips with intense interest as he talks once more. Something about the Andersons being drunk, that he'd like to go for another drink soon. Perhaps he might dance soon. It seems the idea of being up on that dance floor makes him happy. His expression seems to soften as he moves his gaze once more aimed at the dance floor, towards the new Mrs. Anderson, and that fleeting hint of apprehension as his eyes move from bride to groom. I know quite a lot now. Of course, they're none the wiser. I'm just here to document their event. At long last, the party is over. I begin to pack my things away, ready to head home, alone in the room but for one. He comes up to me. Paul Anderson in his navy suit, red tie and brown shoes. Even without the lens, I can see his grandiosity is but an illusion. You did just as I asked. Well done for not getting in the way too much. I nod and smile, replying as I continue to put my things away. No problem, I'm just an observer, that's all, right? The man returns with a jovial smile and heads out of the room, the tapping of his feet audible as he goes. I wasn't lying. I am simply just an observer. My laptop displays the contents of the video, ready for editing, displayed in full. I watch intently at the screen, eyes fixated on each and every change in expression, reveling in the documentation I have of each interaction. I play back the scenes like a movie, stitching together my narrative. I have created a fall from grace, a ceremony with the snapshots of the couple, all smiles and the fragility they both bring. Next, the meal. Morsels swallowed down in small mouthfuls. Mrs. Anderson's apprehensiveness to eat in full view, her husband looking a little too intently at her as she swallows, just for a second. And of course, the dance. The dance is the best part yet. The trailing of his hands up her body as they dance to the rhythm, her face full of telltale reluctance and tolerance. That's what she is really, a woman of tolerance. The music just makes it all in shroud of celebration, eyes locked as she tries to break away, his arm keeping her firmly in place. Why do I care so much about people I hardly know? Their plight is the most interesting part. The fascination lies in their unspoken language, the words they share with no sounds. I know so much about them through my third eye, and they hired me, so I must finish their story. The last part has yet to be completed. The fall from serenity to boiling point is there, but their ending has been untold. I don't usually break my own rules, but the Andersons have really enthralled me today. And so, as I switch tabs to my camera feed monitor, a small sigh escapes my lips. They're sleeping so soundly, not a single peep. Naturally, they're not embracing, but it's serene sleep nonetheless. I switch them off as I leave, my long coat following me as I go. This ending requires more than just watching. A more personal touch is required. Strolling through the darkness is where I enjoy life, the cold air in my face as I trudge along the hard sidewalks of the sleeping city. I cast my mind back to the pre-wedding meeting. Miss Shirley Roberts, as she'd been known before Paul became a husband, sat in front of me in their nice tidy lounge, discussing the details of their celebration, what I'd need to bring, pricing and such. I'd had the measure of them before they'd even started talking. The touching and locking eyes were too performative, as if both were trying to fool one another. Their story was begging to be told. And here I am, once again, at the abode they'd allowed me into, both knowingly and unknowingly. I creep into the backyard, duplicate house key in my left hand and the other key in my right. Advancing up the stairs is a slow process. Every sound I make risks waking the two slumbering protagonists in my narrative. I make my way, ascending with careful footing. I hear soft breathing as I near the top, a mumble and a shift in position. Good, they're still asleep. I'm inside the room now, inches away from my muses. My hand is shaking a little as I place the folder in my right hand in between the two sleeping subjects. I switch my eyes and ears in the house on before I retire to bed, the anticipation of what's to come making sleep difficult. Whoever wakes first will finish my story. I'm not disappointed, not at all. I'm in utter, unadulterated wonder. The camera feed displays blood-soaked sheets sprawled on the floor, fresh from a morning struggle. Two equally disorganized bodies lie parallel to each other, with a blade by Shirley's hand, cadavers leaking the very same liquid the bed is coated with. And just to their left lies an open folder, a picture of a slight, mousy-haired man, and a note scattered not far from it. I begin to look over the footage from the beginning of the morning, watching the resulting skirmish that the two could not have ever foreseen. The awakening of Paul Anderson, his hands opening my gift, the realization, and of course, the mad rage-induced onslaught with the now discarded blade. I have outdone myself. My predictions were once again correct. I know these people better than they know themselves. I know their thoughts. I finally allow myself a smile. My work is done. Now, all that's left is to finish the video, to complete the happiest day of their lives. My ending couldn't have gone any better. I floated through the narrow corridor of the ISS, the hum of machinery reminding me of the delicate job of keeping us alive. I'm the communications officer on this mission. My job is to monitor and interpret the data flowing in from our new array of radio telescopes. These telescopes, bolted to the exterior of the station, are designed to pick up the faint signals of the cosmos, the distant pulsars that might reveal secrets of the universe. Life on the ISS is a dance of precision and routine. Each night, I'd strap myself into my sleeping bag, floating gently in my small sleeping quarters. The weightlessness was a constant reminder that Earth and its gravity were hundreds of kilometers below. Breakfast was always a rehydrated meal, eaten quickly before the day's tasks began. My crewmates and I moved through our routines with efficiency, every action measured to conserve energy and resources. Becoming part of the ISS crew was driven by a need to feel something beyond in my life. The raw, unfiltered experiences of space offered an escape I craved. In the vast silence of the cosmos, I found temporary solace, a way to immerse myself in something greater than me. Every day I would float to the cupola, the observation module, my favorite spot on the ISS. The panoramic view of Earth below, rotating slowly, made me reflect on the life I had left behind. The new telescopes were my primary focus, and I spent countless hours analyzing the data they captured. The telescopes were sophisticated pieces of technology designed to detect the rhythmic pulses of neutron stars, pulsars. These dying stars emitted beams of radiation that could be detected across vast distances. My role was to interpret these signals, to sift through the data and find meaning in the chaos. The ISS's communication systems were our lifeline, relaying back data to mission control and ensuring we remained connected to Earth. Our communication relied heavily on the TDRS, Tracking and Data Relay Satellites network, a constellation of geostationary satellites that allowed almost continuous communication with Earth. Any interruption in this network could mean delayed transmissions, which is why we meticulously monitored our systems. Working so far away from safety meant every task was a balance of precision and improvisation. Maintenance tasks ranged from routine system checks to unexpected repairs. One day, I assisted the engineer, Mia, in repairing a malfunctioning oxygen generator. Floating beside her, tools tethered to our belts, we worked in silent coordination. Mia's calm, methodical approach was reassuring, her hands steady as she adjusted the delicate components. The oxygen generator, part of the Environmental Control and Life Support System, or ECLSS for short, was crucial for converting exhaled carbon dioxide back into breathable oxygen using a process called electrolysis. A malfunction here could mean a critical situation, but Mia's expertise kept us safe. In addition to monitoring radio telescopes, I also managed the station's Ku-band communication system. This system provided high-speed data links to Earth, essential for transmitting the vast amounts of scientific data we collected daily. Any anomalies in these systems required immediate attention to avoid data loss and ensure continuous communication with mission control. In the evenings, we gathered in the small communal area, a makeshift living room where we shared meals and stories. The captain, Jess, would recount her early days in the space program, her voice filled with the passion that had driven her here. Daniel, our scientist, often discussed his latest experiments, his enthusiasm for microgravity research infectious. These moments of camaraderie were precious, reminders that we were not just colleagues, but a team bound by a mission in isolation. However, despite the camaraderie, the solitude of space had a way of creeping in. Late at night, I'd find myself alone in the observation module, staring out at the infinite expanse. The silence was profound, the stars unblinking in the darkness. It was during these quiet moments that I felt the weight of my own isolation most acutely, a contrast to the bustling life I had left behind on Earth. The work on the ISS was demanding, but it provided a structure that helped. Each task, each experiment was a step towards understanding the universe and my place within it. The telescopes, with their promise of discovery, were both a challenge and a refuge. They allowed me to lose myself in the vastness of space, to focus on something beyond the confines of my own mind. Each day began with a gentle nudge from my watch, signaling the start of my shift. I floated through the narrow corridor of the communications module, where the day's data from a new array of radio telescopes awaited. I started by downloading the latest batch of data. The telescopes, equipped with ultra-sensitive receivers, captured the rhythmic pulses of distant neutron stars. The data streamed through the ISS's S-band and Ku-band communication links, ready for analysis. The software hummed as it processed the information, filtering out cosmic noise and highlighting significant patterns. With the data processing underway, I moved on to the daily system checks. The communication system always needed to be in top condition to maintain our link with Earth. I ran diagnostics on the antennas, ensuring they were precisely aligned with the target pulsars. Each day followed a similar pattern. I'd float into the communications module, download the data, and begin the analysis. I logged the observations, noting any minor deviations. In the afternoon, I joined Mia to check in the environmental control and life support system. We worked in silent coordination. The oxygen generator was operating flawlessly. Another day, another batch of data. As I downloaded the latest transmissions, I noticed a faint, almost imperceptible anomaly. Easy to dismiss as background noise. Space is filled with various sources of electromagnetic interference after all. I logged it as such and continued with my routine. The analytical software filtered through the data, isolating the pulsar signals. During the midday system checks, I recalibrated the antennas. It was meticulous work, but necessary to maintain the integrity of our data. The faint anomaly lingered in my mind, but I set it aside, focusing at the tasks at hand. That evening, during our briefing, I considered mentioning the anomaly, but decided against it. It was too vague to source, and the crew had enough to worry about. It seemed too insignificant to warrant their attention. It was just a minor blip in the data, nothing to be concerned about. The day after began like the others. I floated to the communications module, downloaded the data, and began my checks. However, the faint anomaly was still there, a persistent whisper among the rhythmic pulses. I decided to amplify the gain on the receiver, curious to see if the pattern would become clearer. The signal grew more distinct, its rhythmic quality more pronounced. I ran it through the software again, hoping to identify its source and set off the data package. However, the next day, the anomaly was slightly more pronounced. It was still faint, but its consistent presence made me uneasy. I amplified it further and listened closely. What I heard sent a chill down my spine. It was a subtle change, but amidst the cosmic noise, the anomaly seemed almost deliberate. I checked the equipment for faults, running diagnostics on the receivers and data processors. Everything was functioning within normal parameters. I recalibrated the antennas again, ensuring they were precisely aligned, but the anomaly persisted. The spectral analysis revealed slight modulations in the signal that suggested it wasn't entirely random. There were hints of structure, though the details were too vague to decipher. I captured a segment of the data and ran it through a pattern recognition algorithm, hoping to decode it, but the results were inconclusive. Despite the anomaly's persistent presence, it didn't seem important enough to report just yet, just enough to document. The data was too ambiguous, and I needed more of a sample size to finalize a pattern. It also could have easily been a false positive or a technical issue. Still, it gnawed at the back of my mind, a tiny splinter of unease that I couldn't quite shake. As the days passed, I found myself thinking about the anomaly more and more. Late at night, I would do my routine of floating alone in the observation module. The stars, once a source of wonder, now seemed indifferent, their silence amplifying thoughts of the anomaly that echoed in my mind. No matter what I did, the anomaly persisted, its presence gnawing at the edges of my thoughts. It kept happening each time I pulled readings, and Mission Control did not contact us about it. Determined to understand it, I used the ISS's analytical software to delve deeper, now that I had enough samples to try extract a pattern. The software, designed for filtering out cosmic noise and identifying significant patterns, now took on a new level of importance. I ran the anomaly through more complex analyses. I began to notice patterns that were disturbingly intricate. As I was analysing the data, I noticed the anomaly coincided with minor electrical disturbances on the ISS. The lights flickered and the ventilation system momentarily sputtered. I initially thought these were a possible cause for the anomaly, but when the pattern repeated, it was impossible to ignore. I documented these incidents meticulously, noting the exact times and conditions under which they occurred. During one analysis session, the signal's modulation suggested intelligence, structured, deliberate, almost like a coded message. I captured the data and ran it through advanced decryption algorithms, but the results were baffling. The patterns hinted at a form of communication, a concept both thrilling and terrifying. I hesitated before to share my findings with the crew, but I felt I had enough to present with the group. When I finally did, the reception was less than enthusiastic. The captain, Jess, listened patiently but remained skeptical. "It's probably interference from another satellite," she suggested. Mia, ever the pragmatist, ran diagnostics on the station systems, attributing the disturbances to possible minor equipment malfunctions. Daniel was the most intrigued, but still cautious. "It could be a new type of cosmic phenomenon," he theorized, though he wasn't convinced it was anything more than an unknown natural occurrence. Days passed, and the anomaly continued to manifest. I monitored it closely, noting every fluctuation and pattern. The crew's skepticism began to wear on me. Each time I mentioned the anomaly, I saw the doubt in their eyes, and it made me question my own sanity about all of this. Then, while running a routine check, the anomaly coincided with a more significant power surge. The lights flickered violently, and the ISS's communication systems briefly went offline. When the systems came back up, I noticed something new. A more pronounced modulation in the signal, almost like a sound trying to break through. While I was analysing the batch of data, the power surge happened again. This time, the anomaly was unmistakably deliberate. I amplified the signal and listened intently. The modulation was clearer, almost forming sounds, though they were still too distorted to understand. As I was documenting this, Mia called out from another module. "Alex, are you hearing this?" she asked, her voice tinged with confusion. I floated over to her workstation, where she had isolated a similar signal on her equipment. It was different from what I'd been monitoring, yet eerily similar in its rhythmic structure. The crew gathered around as we played the recordings side by side. The similarities were undeniable, but the source remained a mystery. Jess frowned, her skepticism all but gone, replaced with concern. That evening, during our briefing, the mood was tense. We discussed the anomalies in detail, debating their significance and possible causes. Daniel suggested we run a coordinated analysis, combining data from all our systems to see if we could triangulate the source. We tried it, and the coordinated effort revealed even more disturbing patterns. The anomalies were not just random interference. They were consistent and seemed to be increasing in frequency and intensity. We decided to send a detailed report to Mission Control, hoping for some clarification or guidance. At night, as I floated in the observation module, the lights flickered again, more violently than ever. The entire station shuddered as if hit by an external force. My heart raced as I made my way to the communications module. The anomaly was now a deafening signal, almost forming coherent words. Suddenly, Mia's voice crackled over the intercom, filled with panic. I saw myself outside, she gasped. Without a suit? Her words sent a chill. Panic spread quickly among the crew. It wasn't just affecting the ship. It was affecting us. If Mia's hallucination was linked to the anomaly, this posed a serious threat to all of us. The atmosphere aboard the ISS immediately shifted from skeptical curiosity to palpable fear. And things only got worse. The signals began to invade my dreams. At first, they were vague, unsettling images of the stars, but soon they grew more vivid and disturbing. I saw visions of my past, reliving moments of loneliness and loss. The dreams then twisted into dark, violent scenarios where the ISS was overrun by an unknown force. Shadowy figures floated through the station, whispering my name, their faces indistinguishable, but their presence suffocating. I woke up in cold sweats. Reality was blurring. I heard the whispers in the quiet hum of the station, in the white noise of the ventilation system. My grip on my sanity began to slip. Simple tasks became monumental challenges as I struggled to focus, my mind constantly drifting. The crew noticed my deteriorating state. "You need to rest," Jess urged, her concern evident. Yet she also showed signs of mental decay. "You're pushing yourself too hard." But rest was impossible. The whispers had become a constant companion, invading the time I set aside to try recover, their presence growing stronger, more invasive. One particular night, I dreamt that the ISS was falling apart. The walls cracked and the station's structural integrity failed. As I floated helplessly through the disintegrating module, the whispers grew deafening, a cacophony of voices screaming my name. I woke up gasping for breath, the vividness of the dream lingering like a shadow over my consciousness. The boundaries between my waking life and my dreams continued to blur. Each day felt like a descent further into madness. The anomaly at the center of my unraveling psyche. No matter how much I wanted to stay away, I had to keep logging data. This needed to be studied. I was caught in a web of fear and an insatiable need to understand the signal that seemed to hold my very sanity in its grasp. The anomaly grew ever present. The electrical disturbances and unsettling dreams had become a constant, gnawing at my sanity and the ship. One night, while analyzing more data, trying to figure everything out, I intercepted a clear and direct message through the ISS's communication system. The words were distorted, but unmistakable. "We were here before you. You don't belong." My heart raced as I replayed the message, trying to make sense of it. The modulation of the signal was complex, layered with patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond our understanding. As I focused on the message, vivid hallucinations began to flood my mind. I saw a different world, one that existed long before humans had ventured into space. And eyes, many eyes. In these visions, I witnessed colossal structures floating through the void, inhabited by entities whose forms defied comprehension. Everything watching me, sentient or not. Their technology looked ancient yet advanced, blending seamlessly with the fabric of space itself. The entities communicated through the same rhythmic pulses that had been haunting me. Their messages a chilling warning of a forgotten past and an imminent threat. The ISS felt like a fragile bubble in the vastness of space, surrounded by the remnants of a civilization that once dominated the solar system. The message echoed in my mind, reinforcing the sense of impending doom. You don't belong. The ISS systems began to fail catastrophically. The lights flickered violently, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The life support systems, which were crucial for maintaining breathable air and stable temperature, started to malfunction. The oxygen levels fluctuated, and the CO2 scrubbers struggled to keep up. As I floated to the station, all hands on deck, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Eyes on me from behind, no matter how I turned. The telescopes, once instruments of discovery, now seemed like beacons drawing in an unseen force. The comm system crackled with static, punctuated by whispers that grew louder and more insistent. I saw shadowy figures in the corner of my vision, their forms flickering like faulty holograms. They whispered to me, their voices blending with the rhythmic pulses of the anomaly. The boundary between reality and hallucination dissolved, leaving me in a state of perpetual terror. I sped toward the life support module, hoping to stabilize the systems. The console displayed erratic readings, fluctuating oxygen levels, spikes in CO2, and temperatures swinging wildly. I initiated emergency protocols, overriding the automatic controls to manually regulate the life support systems. My fingers flew all over the interface, adjusting parameters in a desperate attempt to restore stability. Despite my efforts, the whispers persisted, growing more aggressive. I felt their presence closing in, urging me to open the airlock and let them in. The airlock controls, normally unresponsive without a deliberate command, flickered ominously, ready to be used without any of the routine procedures. I backed away, the urge to comply with the whispers warring with my instincts for self-preservation. I floated to the observation module to see if anything was actually outside, or if this was all just in my head, or worse, in the ship. The view of the earth below, usually a source of comfort, now felt like a reminder of our isolation from safety. No help would come, or could come if we asked. The stars outside seemed to pulse with a malevolent light, the silence mocking my isolation. As I stared out into the void, the hallucinations intensified. I saw the ancient entities, their forms looming over the ISS, their technology intertwining with ours. They reached out with tendrils of energy, probing the station's defenses. I could feel their intent, a dark curiosity mixed with a sense of territoriality. The communication system flared to life again, broadcasting the same chilling message. We were here before you. You don't belong. The words reverberated through the station, each repetition driving me further into madness. The shadows whispered suggestively, urging me to surrender, to open the airlock and let them in. I knew I was losing my grip on reality. The once familiar environment of the ISS had become a nightmarish labyrinth, filled with ghostly figures and sinister whispers. The station's systems continued to fail, each malfunction reinforcing the sense of impending catastrophe. The shadows closed in around me, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, filling my mind with a relentless chant. You don't belong, you don't belong. My willpower waned, the urge to open the airlock becoming almost irresistible. It all had reached a deafening crescendo pushing me to the edge. In a desperate bid to end the torment, I floated to the communications module, my mind racing with a single, desperate plan: disconnect the telescopes. I hesitated for a moment, my fingers hovering over the console. Disconnecting the telescopes would mean losing valuable data, potentially cutting off a significant part of our mission. But the station was falling apart, and the crew's lives were at stake. I had no other choice. "Jess, I need to disconnect the telescopes," I said, my voice trembling. She looked at me, a mix of fear and confusion in her eyes. "Are you sure that will stop this?" "It's our only shot." Jess paused in thought, but knew it was our only desperate attempt. She reluctantly nodded. I initiated the sequence to power down the telescopes. The system protested with error messages and warnings about the loss of critical data. I overrode each of them, my hands shaking as I worked through the steps. As I reached the final command, the whispers grew frantic, as if they were trying to stop me. "Here goes nothing," I whispered to myself, and disconnected the final telescope. The silence was immediate and profound. The whispers ceased instantly, and the station systems, which had been on the brink of total failure, began to stabilize. The lights stopped flickering, and the life support systems returned to normal parameters, and the communication systems hummed back to life with a steady, reassuring tone. Our shoulders rolled like an immense weight had been lifted. The crew, though shaken, began to regain control. Mia worked to reset the environmental controls, while Jess and Daniel checked the communication links to mission control. The pervasive sense of doom lifted, replaced by a cautious optimism. We filed a detailed incident report to mission control, outlining the strange anomalies and the subsequent system failures. The response was swift, but cryptic. The incident was to remain classified. No further details were to be shared, even among ourselves. The message was clear. What happened on the ISS would remain a mystery, shrouded in secrecy. Back to my normal routine, I found myself drawn to the observation module, a habit that was ingrained in me. The stars outside that relaxed me before now seemed to pulse with a malevolent light, a stark reminder of the ordeal we had just survived. As I floated there, staring out into the infinite expanse of space, a deep, unsettling fear settled into my bones. The silence was almost too perfect, the calm after a storm filled with an eerie sense of anticipation. The crew tried to return to their routines, but the experience had left us all deeply affected. Jess maintained a stoic front, but I could see the haunted look in her eyes. Mia threw herself into her work, her hands never quite as steady as before. Daniel's enthusiasm had dimmed, replaced by a quiet, contemplative demeanor. As for me, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The stars, once a source of wonder and inspiration, now seemed like silent sentinels, waiting. The message we had intercepted: "We were here before you. You don't belong," echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of our encounter. I was filled with the weight of unanswered questions and unresolved fears. I was constantly on edge, always feeling like the whispers could return at any moment, perhaps with even greater force. The uncertainty of what lay beyond the veil of space left us with a gnawing sense of dread. I stared out at the cosmos, my mind replaying the events over and over, searching for clues or signs that we had missed. The ISS, once a beacon of human achievement, now felt like a fragile outpost on the edge of an abyss, the first point of contact, if anything were to come. Ultimately, I couldn't escape the haunting feeling that we had merely glimpsed the surface of a far greater mystery. The stars, with their silent, pulsing light, seemed to mock my attempts to understand. The whispers had ceased, but their presence lingered, a shadow over my thoughts. In the end, I was left with the unsettling realization that our place in the universe was far from secure. The entities we had encountered, whether real or imagined, had made their point clear. We were intruders in a realm beyond our understanding, and I carried a fear that they might return with greater force and clearer intent. The ISS returned to normal operations, but I knew that things would never be the same. The experience had left an indelible mark on all of us, and I couldn't help but wonder what else lay hidden in the vast, uncharted depths of space, waiting for us to find it, or for it to find us. My name is Carter. I take pride in my work, and I work on the pipes. My current job revolves around an oil pipeline in the Persian Gulf. It's at the very bottom of the sea between Saudi Arabia and Iran. It's just gone midday, but unfortunately, we are too far down for the light at the surface to reach us. So, my current surroundings are illuminated by nothing more than the yellowish beam of my flashlight. A small collection of bubbles escape from my diving mask. They ripple up and out of sight as I gently kick my flippers, slowly propelling myself through the gloom. As a worker down here, I am one of 3, but the others are not currently visible to me. My beam lands on a great metal pipe, the one that extends up into the habitat, a cage-like artificial pocket of air, and down to the depths below. I look down and cast my beam over the pipe's body. The light catches on nothing but the rusted metal, a lone cylindrical obelisk in the watery world around me. I lower the beam. I cast it as far down as it will go, but all I see are my flippers beneath me, gently kicking, and the great pipe vanishing into the blue-black darkness beneath my feet. A chill passes through my body. I hear the sound of my heartbeat in my ears. Where this vertical pipe connects to its horizontal brother on the ocean floor, there is an enormous metal structure of sorts, one with the purpose of keeping a series of temporary installments attached to the pipe in place. I cannot see this monstrosity at present, but the simple act of knowing that far below lurks a monstrous metal skeleton waiting patiently beneath my feet. I shiver. They tell tales about this place, about the sea. Tales of malevolent spirits that play tricks on divers. Water jinn, they're called. These spirits show divers illusions and distortions to confuse them. They get them deliberately lost as a form of amusement, the tales say. And then, depending on the spirit's moods, they either get bored and let them go, or they devour them. Something glitters in the gloom in the corner of my eye, and I wheel around in the water, raising the beam of the flashlight, a gasp escaping into my mask. but the beam lands on nothing more than a school of tiny silver fish. They flitter by and pay me no mind, and I catch my breath. Idiot Kadar, I mutter to myself, my voice obscured by the mask, and I kick my way up through the water, following the pipe towards the habitat's air pocket. I see the waterline rippling above me. It draws closer and closer, and I catch sight of flashes of colour beyond. My comrades. Eventually, I break through the surface, popping off my mouthpiece and raising my mask, shaking my hair as I clamber up onto the little platform that surrounds us. A bench-like apparatus that goes all the way around the inside rim of the habitat. As I said before, I am one of 3. My colleagues are called Amir and Ahmed, and they sit waiting for me, their legs dangling over the side, their flippers dipped in the water beneath. I let out a grunt and a sigh as I take a seat beside them, my own flippers half submerged in the water beneath. It seems almost paradoxical, this little space, a marvel of physics. We sit far below the surface of the sea, in the small confines that the habitat provides, and yet we have air. The habitat is a metal box about 4 meters in width and 3 in height. The air in here is dank and stale, but it is, at the least, quite breathable. From the center of the water between us, the pipe extends up and into the stagnant air. The pipe is currently corked by an enormous rubber plug, one that we will need to deflate before our shift is over. Its purpose is to prevent the oil inside the pipe leaking out into the sea. Thanks to the habitat, we can safely remove it now, without risk of environmental damage. The pipe in question goes all the way down to the bottom of the sea in a straight line, and there it splits in 2 and travels horizontally across the sea floor. One end travels north, a few miles out to the Saudi Arabian coast, and the other travels south. It's just about wide enough for a man to squeeze down, should an emergency repair need taking place from the inside, but the diameter is not large. I wipe some of the salt water from my face as Amir connects a long, black cable to the depressurizer. The end of the cable leads down into the pipe and is connected to the rubber plug. "See any spirits down there today, Kedar?" Amir asks me as he fastens the seal on the cable. "The Jinn al-Bahar?" Ahmed chuckles, scratching his beard. His voice, as does Amir's, echoes around the somewhat claustrophobic confines of the habitat. I smile dryly. "No spirits, Amir, just..." I think about the pipe, disappearing down into the darkness far below. I can't quite explain why it gives me the creeps. It just does. "Just what?" Amir asks. "Nothing," I finish. "What about you guys? Any spirits?" I turn to Ahmed. "Have you finally caught sight of Jinn al-Bahar?" I wave my hands and fingers mysteriously, teasing him, but Ahmed is undaunted. "You mock, Kadar, but this sea, this ancient sea, if we're going to see one, then it'll be here." He claps his hands together, and a small shower of water droplets splash down onto the water by our feet. The shimmering blue gateway to the sea below, the sea above, and the ocean all around. "And I'll tell you what else," he continues, raising a finger. "I did see something." "Oh, here we go," Amir mutters, rolling his eyes. No, listen," Ahmed says hurriedly. "Just listen to this. So there I was, right, about an hour ago, swimming around near the pipe, when I may have gotten a little distracted by a fish." Amir shakes his head, and we exchange a glance. "You should have seen it, Amir. A great golden thing. I wanted a better look, so I left the pipe and followed it, just for a short while, and eventually he got spooked and vanished into the blue." Ahmed falters. He rubs his chin. "It was actually quite an alarming experience. I turned back to the pipe and, of course, I saw nothing but the endless void of the ocean. I tried to retrace my steps, but again, there were no steps. I was alone. It was frightening. Amir and myself remained silent. But then, that's when I saw it. I saw them. Ahmed continues, practically jumping on the metal ledge we're all perched on. Hey, easy, I say as I feel myself rattle in time to his jumps. Amir flicks a switch on the depressurization machine. It starts to rumble. Ahmed leans forward, looking between us. Out there, in the far distance, I see a trio of shapes, 3 figures like shadows in the deep and the gloom. You should take up poetry, Amir mutters as he flicks another switch. Against my sense of better judgment, I am too engrossed by Ahmed's story to pay attention to exactly what it is he is doing. What kind of shapes? I ask. What kind of figures? They were like smoke, except no, more like mist maybe. Thick, dense mist, with eyes that flickered pale like refracting sunlight. You had to look a certain way to see them. Ahmed's voice drops low, becomes wistful. I saw them for only a second or two, and then they were gone. Vanished. How'd you get back to the pipe? I ask. Did the spirits show you the way? Amir chuckles. Well, no, I just used the compass, Ahmed says. But that's beside the point. I saw something. I know I did. I thought the spirits were supposed to be dangerous, Amir says. The stories always tell of how cruel they are. They play pranks on divers like us, you know. They bang on the pipes, they groan and moan from the inside. Makes you think that there are monsters inside, waiting to burst right out and get you. Maybe that's why they appeared to me, Ahmed says thoughtfully, then gestures to the pipe between us. Maybe they were trying to warn us. Perhaps there's a monster in the pipe. Amir snorts. Don't be ridiculous. Maybe once the plug is deflated, Ahmed says softly, maybe the beast will spring right out. And where would we go? We are effectively trapped down here when you really think about it. There is a moment of uncomfortable silence, broken only by a slow hissing produced by the depressurization machine as it begins its work deflating the plug in the pipe. Nonsense, Amir says after a beat, shaking his head. Don't say such stupid stuff. All I'm saying, Ahmed finishes, shrugging, is that the spirits aren't necessarily something to be feared. I know you guys don't really believe, but they can be helpful too. They don't devour people. The Jinn al-Bihar, mischievous maybe, but not unkind in their own way. Amir grunts and waves his hand dismissively. Ahmed looks at me for support, and I just laugh. Come on, I say. Enough is enough, I think. We have work to do. I wouldn't want Zahir to snitch on us again. The conversation shifts, and a collective groan echoes around the habitat. I can't stand that guy, Amir says dramatically, and we all laugh. A collective dislike of the man has become a running joke between us. Zahir is technically a colleague of ours, and although we rarely work in close capacity, his projects always seem to be in tandem to our own, so we're never quite rid of him. He has thick red hair and a ridiculous scraggly beard, and all in all, he makes himself an easy target. A busybody and a teacher's pet, you see. He clocks in more hours than he has to, unpaid I might add, yet despite his enduring and tragic efforts, he always gets passed up for promotion because he has a vacuum for a personality. Zahir is entirely devoid of charisma. Maybe we should play a prank on him before we go up, Amir suggests, as the machine deflating the plug kicks up a gear. The hissing grows louder. What kind of prank? Ahmed asks. I don't know. We could head over to his site in Azrakwan, bang some pipes, make some noise, Give him a little spook before his shift is over. Could be fun. Wouldn't be worth it, I reply. As much fun as that sounds, Azrakwan is 1.5 kilometers away. Do you really want to swim all that way for some childish prank? And besides, we never fools are here with that spirit nonsense. The man doesn't believe in anything. He's got no imagination. True, Amir nods regretfully. He fiddles with the machine beside him and gives it a light slap. And it does its job. It finishes deflating the plug to a sufficient degree, freeing up a space around it and opening a way down into the pipe. What this was supposed to do was allow us to reach in, haul the deflated plug out, check for leaks, damage, and whether the plug needs a potential replacement. We should have been able to do this easily and safely, as the pipe at this time and on this day is supposed to be filled with oil. For whatever reason, however, the pipe is not. There is, as it turns out, significantly less oil inside than we were told, and as was believed. And so, what happens instead takes place over the course of a few terrible seconds, a true nightmare that I will never, ever be able to forget. The positive pressure inside the habitat, the little atmosphere keeping us alive, rushes instantaneously into the pipe and forces down the small amount of oil at a monstrous, inhuman speed. This motion creates what I can only describe as a blinding vortex. The air and the ocean are hauled up and around us like a sudden whirlwind of chaos and terror in the blink of an eye. My vision is lost to a brutal and immediate rush of darkness as my body is slammed into the habitat wall. I scream, but all that I could produce is froth and bubbles as my shoulder cracks on the edge of something metal. I do not know which way is up or down. The safety and sanctuary of the habitat is shattered. I can see nothing but shadow as water blasts into my nose and my mouth and eyes, and I am sucked instantly and brutally down into the pipe. I can feel its walls pressing against me on all sides as I am dragged cataclysmically between them. I am forced through the water and the oil head first at near breakneck speed. Blood rushes to my head as my arms and legs are smashed and battered against the metal. There is only terror and darkness. My head strikes against the metal as the pipe levels out, and the world behind my screwed shut eyelids flashes red, then white. A ringing echoes in my ears and competes with the thunderous rush of the water as I release an involuntary bellow of pain. Oil and seawater pour into my mouth, my lungs, and I swallow some and breathe in the rest, choking and drowning as I am dragged through the pipe along the seafloor. I'm going to die. This one singular thought plays over and over in my head. I'm going to die, and this is the end. The terror of my situation, for a quick, fleeting moment, is replaced by an eerie calm. The sounds of the rushing, hammering water do not lessen, but I find my altitude changed. It soothes me, and I think about a beach I visited as a young child with my family as I prepared to exhale my final breath. Except, instead of producing bubbles as I do so, I instead begin to choke and to splutter. I start to cough, spluttering, coughing, and I realize at once that this can only mean one thing. I have found air. I gasp and retch. I try to bring my hands up to my mouth, but they bang painfully against the inner wall of the pipe. My right wrist throbs angrily, sending shards of pain shooting up my arm. I think the entire hand may be broken. Air, I think to myself, and the vision of the beach is lost. The terror floods immediately back into my mind in the same manner as the water was hauled into the pipe. Most of my head is submerged in water. Though my eyes, nose and mouth are free, I can lift my head, then my ears are raised above the waterline and I am able to hear, but the action presses on my forehead against the cold metal above me. I've stopped moving, and the reality of my situation sets in. I'm in the pipe. Oh no, I murmur aloud, retching as I cough up water and oil. Oh no, 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 I scream. I slam my good fist against the metal, shouting for help. Please, I scream into the pitch black darkness. Please, someone, Amir, Ahmed. Panic strikes. There is nowhere to go, nowhere to run, and no one to hear me. I can barely move. The water ebbs and sloshes around my face, and I gasp. My breathing becomes shallow and dangerous. You're not drowning, I have to keep telling myself. You're not drowning, you have some air, you can breathe, you can breathe. Calm yourself, Gadar. I try to raise my legs, and one of my flippers kicks against the roof of the pipe. I try to turn a little to my side, and realize that to do so requires significant effort and a reasonable degree of pain. I've done some serious damage to my shoulder, and my neck too perhaps. The simple act of raising my head causes immense pain to shoot down my spine, but to allow my head to lower completely would mean the majority of my face is submerged. I force myself to slow my breathing. That's the priority. Nice, slow breathing. In and out. Slow, deep breaths. With grunts of pain and a hammering heart, I shuffle and twist as best I can, searching my person for my scuba equipment. I believe that I am wearing only a single flipper now. I think the other must have been torn off as I was sucked into the pipe. No other equipment can be found. My breathing mask and the air tank. It's all gone. It's gone. Oh God, I whisper, and despite my sense of logic, I bang on the pipe. Hello, I shout into the inky darkness. Hello, is anyone there? Kadar, comes a voice a little ways back along the pipe. It echoes from the darkness beyond my feet. I try to raise my face a little higher, to look down into the void, but it's futile. I can see nothing. Hello? I shout back. Who is it? Ahmed, are you alright? Kadar, he shouts, a relief tempered with terror. You're alive. I can breathe. Are you okay? Another voice echoes from beyond even Ahmed. It is fainter, but I can still hear it. Guys, comes the voice of Amir. Guys, are you both alright? Thank the Lord, I mutter, holding back a sob of relief. Amir, Ahmed, it's Kadar. Are you hurt? Yes, Amir calls after me. I believe one of my arms is broken. Likewise, Amir shouts. Then, a little quieter. Damn, I think my legs are too. Oh God. He releases what sounds like a cry of pain, then swears. What do we do? Ahmed calls into the pipe. What do we do? He kicks against the pipe, and the sound reverberates down and over my head. Okay, hold on, I shout, clenching my hands into fists, thinking, using my overheating brain as best as I can. The three of us are alive. We're trapped in the pipe at the bottom of the sea. No one knows we're down here, and once they find the wreckage of the habitat, they'll probably assume we were killed instantly, cast out into the sea perhaps. I feel the panic returning. I try to stretch my limbs, but am unable. I kick the pipe in frustration and let out a shout of rage. Kadar, calm down, calls Ahmed. It's alright. We'll be alright. Yes, I need to calm down. First things first. The pipe. when it reaches the sea floor, splits into two. I do not know if we've been pulled north towards the site of Azrak 1 or south towards the site of Azrak 2. How far away are they? I tried to think. Azrak 1 is situated around 1.5 kilometers north of our former location of the habitat. Azrak 2 is over twice that distance south. I have no idea how far along we were pulled down the pipe. It all happened so fast. We could be hundreds of meters in either direction by now. All I know is that the air we're breathing, the pocket created, is likely due to the undulations of the pipe, small bumps and raises over support beams. It's entirely possible that there are more of these further down the tunnel, but how large is each air pocket, and at what point do they run out? Okay, I shout down. Friends, I have an idea, and we do not have time to waste. I'm all ears, brother, Ahmed calls up. There is a moment of silence. Amir? Ahmed calls down. Yes, he replies weakly. I'm here, but I'm not in good shape. I'm going to be honest. It's okay, I shout, forcing my own confidence to grow, believing in hope for us, for the sake of my friends, if not for myself. We'll be alright, just listen. I clear my throat, and the sound bounces off the pipe above me and back into my face. I raise my head to clear my ears from the water and wince from the pain. We need to move, I shout simply. We cannot stay here or we will die. Any further pressure changes and the pipe could fill with water to the brim. And regardless, sooner or later, we will use up all of the oxygen and we will suffocate. So I propose this. We do our best to move. We shuffle our way along the pipe as far as we can. If we're in luck, we've been pulled north, and I do not know how much distance we've already covered. Azrak 1 is only 1.5 kilometers away max. That's a distance we can make, I'm sure of it. And if we've been pulled south, Amir calls. To this, I remain silent. The sound of something low and deep reverberates along the pipe. Then, shakily, Ahmed replies, Alright, Qadar, I'm with you. We'll do this. We crawl our way along the pipe, and we pray. Amir, I call down, what do you think? He coughs and groans. Qadar, he says, Look, I can barely move. I can't do this. You can, Ahmed shouts down. You can. No, Ahmed. Amir groans again. Ahmed, my injuries are bad. I cannot move an inch. We can't leave you behind. Ahmed splutters, but Amir interrupts. Go, he says. And once you've escaped, you'll know where to find me. Just go, alright? You said yourselves, the clock is ticking, so go. I hesitate, then release a long, shuddering sigh. God save you, brother, I call down. We'll be back, I promise. We won't leave you. I know, he says, his voice distant and quiet. Damn, I mutter angrily, slamming my fist against the pipe. Ahmed, are you ready? There's a pause. Yes, he says. I'm right behind you, Qadar. Let's do this. And so, we begin our venture. Excruciatingly claustrophobic does not even begin to cover it. The knowledge that beyond these narrow confines is nothing more than the great weight of the ocean does not fill me with bravery. Every inch that we travel requires an exertion. I find little to no leverage on the wet, slippery, and oil-soaked base of the pipe. So I have to find the slightest, narrowest of grooves, mostly around the upper half, and press my toes or heels into them, using my one good hand and my one broken hand to help force myself along through the sloshing, sinister waters. I can see nothing. there is no level of light at all for my eyes to adjust to, so in pitch darkness we remain. As we move, I try my best to keep track of the distance travelled. My estimate, I think, is reasonable after 2 or 3 meters. After 10, my grasp is feeble, and beyond that, I simply lose track. It's impossible to tell. We keep shuffling our way down the pipe, listening to the sounds of our breathing, occasionally calling down to each for reassurance, Ahmed and I. Slowly and steadily through this underwater pipe, inch by agonizing inch. It's tough to tell how much time passes, but after around 20 minutes, I make a disturbing discovery. It was gradual at first, so gradual that I did not notice, but there is now a significant stress placed on the back of my neck. I'm having to hold my face as high as I can, and my forehead has been pressed against the metal for a while now. It is only when I have to alter the shape of my lips to inhale the air that I realize we are running out. I suppress a wave of panic and stop moving at once, shuffling back the way I came to give myself a little more airspace to work with. Water sloshes in my ears and obscures my hearing, but I call down to Ahmed. "Ahmed," I call. "Can you hear me?" "Yes," he shouts back, coughing. "Everything all right?" "Ahmed," I falter. "Ahmed, we're about to run out of air." There's a pause. "What do you mean?" he asks, his voice higher, more anxious. "I mean, the air pocket is about to expire." Another pause. "Maybe there's another further down," he says. "I've seen the schematics of the pipe. The undulations are not regular, so there could be another pocket." "What if there isn't?" I shout back, chest now rising and falling desperately. Damn it, damn it. There is no space, no light. I can't breathe. "Get a hold of yourself," Ahmed shouts, and it cuts through the madness. I seize hold of his words and allow them to anchor me. "We can do this, brother." I take a deep breath. "All right," I say. "All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move as fast as I can along the pipe. I'll hold my breath and I'll search for an air pocket. Regardless of whether I do or don't, I'll be back to let you know. Okay?" "You're a brave man," calls the voice of Ahmed. "Don't overdo it. Good luck." "Okay," I say, heart pounding. I begin to take a series of slow, deep breaths, gently and gradually expanding my lungs, preparing them to hold for as long as they are able. The sound is cold and eerie in the darkness. Steady, deep breaths. My chest rises and falls. I shuffle back along the pipe, my face pressed against the pipe, the air metallic and oily and grim. I can't hear anything now. The water comes all the way up to the sides of my lips. Shaking, I press my hand against the side, doing my best to ignore the pain shooting through my right hand wrist. Here we go, Kadar. I take my final breath in, my lungs fill to their maximum capacity, and I brace myself against the pipe, using my hands and feet to push myself further along. The air is lost, and I am completely submerged beneath the water. It forms a constant, steady, roaring rumble in my ears. I use anything that I can to increase the distance I'm able to move. My elbows, knees, heels, shoulders. I use all of them to search for leverage. Inch by inch, faster than before, I force myself through the pipe. My heart pounds. The beat is loud. So loud. My chest trembles, but I keep moving as far as I can. Inch by inch, inch by inch. Don't panic. If I don't find air, then there's really nothing for us. we'll suffocate or drown or worse in the belly of the pipe, and we may never be discovered. I have to keep moving, inch by inch. My hands reach a particularly oily section of the pipe, and instead of pressing against the sides, they slip right off. In a blink, my momentum is lost, and I fumble and splutter in terror as I realize that my means of propulsion has now failed me. No, I think with flashes of terrible urgency. No. Bubbles unseen escape from my lips as I writhe in the darkness, suffocating in the cold embrace of the rusted beast. Please, I beg, sending up prayers to a god I have neglected, desperately searching for a workable surface. My foot finds a subtle groove, and I'm able to push myself another inch. And from there, I'm able to move another. My journey continues, but I'm rewarded with no relief. Because soon, I will need to breathe in. My lungs have already begun to ache, and if I don't find another pocket of air, then I'll have to return through the pipe, back the way I came, back past the slippery, oily walls. What if I get stuck on my way back? What if I don't make it back in time? How the hell was this allowed to happen? I am overcome with a sudden burst of rage, and bubbles spill through my clenched teeth as I force myself deeper and deeper through the water, as hastily as I am able. My lungs start to burn. I'm going to run out of air. Just a little further. I can surge a little further. I'm going to run out of air. I'm going to die. Just a little further. I can do it. I can do it. And with a sudden gasp and a great shuddering breath inwards, I almost laugh in desperate thankfulness as the angle of the pipe is suddenly changed, and I feel my face emerge into a fresh, new pocket of air. It's not fresh, of course, but in that moment, it's the sweetest air I've ever tasted. I come to a stop and allow some great and rasping breaths, filling and replenishing my lungs. Thank God, is all I can murmur over and over. Thank God, thank God. I calm myself, and once I have my breath, I try shouting. I don't think he'll be able to hear me, but I try anyway. I receive no response, so I try knocking a rhythm on the pipe. There is still no response. So, regretfully, I prepare for the return journey. I'm scared, of course, but I now know it can be done, that there is air waiting safely for me on the other side. So I fill my lungs once again and shuffle back through the pipe, feet first this time, back towards Ahmed's location. I use the material of my diving suit to help me pass by the particularly oily section and emerge back into the former pocket, spluttering and coughing. "Oh, good Lord," Ahmed shouts. "Kadar, you took your damn time. I thought you might have..." "It's alright," I reply. "We can make it. There's another pocket ahead. Now listen." And I go on to explain the distance and what he'll need to do. Then finally, for the third and hopefully final time, we force ourselves through the watery darkness, back beneath and through the pipe, with the promise of the next air pocket, our guiding light. Inch by inch, as fast as I can, praying that Ahmed is able to keep up. And then, as before, my face emerges welcomingly into the new air pocket, but I continue moving along to allow space for Ahmed. The seconds pass, and it's just as I'm beginning to fret that I hear his coughing, the sound of great lungfuls of swallowed air as he breathes in. "Yes," I shout, banging my good fist on the pipe. We did it, brother." "Yes," he splutters. "Yes, we did." Then he releases what sounds like a laugh. and it fills my heart with hope. "Come on," I shout to him, "let's keep going." And so we do, on our journey through the pipe, inch by inch, as the hours pass by, the timeless hours in the perpetual, watery darkness. My joints ache, my muscles tense and throb with exertion, but I have to keep going. There's nothing else for it. Our air pocket comes to an end, and as with before, I scout ahead. I have to, of course, as there's simply no way possible for Ahmed to pass me by. After holding my breath for another painful period of time, I am blessed with the discovery of a new breathable space, and so we continue in the same manner. These air pockets, however, grow shorter and shorter as we progress, much to my quiet alarm, but they're still just enough, and so our journey continues. Every time I have to hold my breath and go on ahead, it is a cruel exercise in willpower and mental strength, but I do my duty. I have to. We have to get out. We need to. An exhausting struggle through the pipe comes to a temporary halt as we reach an air pocket a mere 3 or 4 meters in length. I start with fright as my bad shoulder knocks up against something hard and cold. It moves in little response to the pressure I exert upon it, so it isn't a blockage of any kind. Could it be? My heart leaps. Wriggling, squirming in the pipe, I do my best to bring my good hand up towards my head. It is not a quick process and requires some uncomfortable maneuvers, but eventually my hand can reach my neck and beyond, and my fingers explore the mysterious object. Despite everything, a grin spreads across my face, and I cry out loud with joy. "Ahmed," I shout. "Ahmed, I found a tank. I think... Yes, it's all connected. It's all here." "A tank?" he replies. "What do you mean?" "I mean an oxygen tank, Ahmed. It's all in one piece. The breathing tube. Yes, it's all here." "That's fantastic," he exclaims. "How many are there?" My enthusiasm drops. I shuffle further down the pipe, searching blindly in the darkness for evidence of a potential second set of diving gear. Despite my silent pleas, however, there is only one. "I can only find one here," I tell my comrade. "But there might be another further down. This is a game changer. We can do this. We can get out." "Whose tank is it, Kedar?" Ahmed asks me. I think my own was about half full. "Yes, likewise," I reply. "What about Amir's?" "Amir's?" Ahmed begins hesitating. "Kedar, I think Amir's was almost empty." I take a deep breath. "Right," I reply. "Well, still, this will help. I'll use it now, and I'll see if I can find another set a little further along. Wish me luck." "Good luck, man," Ahmed says. "Godspeed." I check the tank over as best I can. I hold the mouthpiece around my lips, giving it a few test breaths. Then on I go. Back beneath the water, though this time armed with the tank to help me along my way. I grunt and shift my body around, shuffling through the pipe, squirming my way along, and I find what will come to be the final air pocket of its type. A mere meter long, not even big enough for Ahmed and I to share at the same time, and to my growing frustration, there is no sign of a second tank. So, I push deeper, onwards through the pipe, breathing with the tank, pushing it along with me as I go. I discover, to my bitter amusement, what could well be my second missing flipper, but there is still no second tank, and no further air pockets either. Clenching my fist, I realize that I need to go back before Ahmed starts worrying, so I make the painstaking return journey in a time that to my friend must have felt like hours. But at last, I return to our shared location and inform him of the disappointing news. He is quiet as I relay my findings, and then he says in a soft voice, "Kadar, I think that this is the end of the road for me. There is no use in me going any further. I think that I'll have to wait here." I begin to protest, but my words die in my mouth. What is there for me to say? He's right, of course. It's a harsh truth, but he is absolutely right. He'll simply have to stay behind. The next leg of the journey, I'll have to do alone. A sudden rush of emotion swells up inside me, and I force it back down. There's a time and a place. I try not to consider the fact that this may be the last time I ever hear his voice. Perhaps I've heard both their voices for the very last time. No, time and a place. Keep moving. "Ahmed," I begin, fumbling for some words that'll do the moment justice, but he interrupts. "See you soon, buddy," he says in the dark. I'm not able to reply immediately, but when I do, I say to him, "Yes, for sure. See you soon, buddy." And with that, I'm gone. I force myself further along the tank, crawling and shuffling, and I am submerged. My breathing is loud through the tube connected to my mouth, and when I reach the final air pocket, I allow myself a second to pause, to steel my constitution. And then this pocket too is left behind. On I go, underwater. The rest of my journey will be underwater, and since I cannot see, there is no way to tell how much air is left in the tank. If it was mine or Ahmed's, then I should have hours to spare. If it was Amir's, well, no point in being coy. If it's Amir's, then I'll likely die down here, unless I'm blessed with another surprise air pocket. It's not impossible, I tell myself as I crawl through the pipe, water all around me. It's not impossible. And yet, as the hours go by, there are no more air pockets to discover, just more pipe. The endless, claustrophobic dark of the tunnel. How far have I come? No idea. Impossible to tell, really. And I don't even know which way I'm heading. If it's north, then there's hope. If south, then this whole venture was pointless anyway. I'll never make it back to Azrak 2. Azrak 1, on the other hand. For Azrak 1, hope remains. There's still hope. Onwards through the pipe, through the oily, poisoned water. My elbows burn with pain from the friction. My shoulders have been rubbed raw. My feet are developing painful blisters from the places I've been forced to press them against the pipe for leverage, over and over. My neck is killing me. It hurts to turn my head too far in either direction. I just grit my teeth and keep on going. Too late to stop now. Must keep going. On and on and on. God give me strength, I mutter to myself as my muscles contract and sting. Give me strength to see this through. Thinking about Ahmed, about Amir, all alone just like me, it helps propel me forward. I can't give up, not while they're counting on me. I can never do that to them, not ever. So on I go. Endless, ceaseless dark, endless, ceaseless torture of the pipe. except is one of panic. I fear that I've reached some kind of wall in the pipe, one that shouldn't exist, that I've come all this way to find nothing more than a dead end. Upon little inspection, however, I realize that a space has opened up above my head. I squirm around, and for the first time in hours and hours, I'm able to change positions and to sit upright. My back cracks, and a rush of unbelievable relief and muscle tension flows through me. I bring up my hands to feel around me in the darkness, and I almost shout for joy. The pipe has reached its end. It's going up now, vertically, up through the sea towards the surface. We came north, I laugh, the cracks of hope widening, flowing into me like rivers of silver. We've been travelling north the whole time. The end of the pipe, upwards to the installation at Azrakwan, and to salvation. Unless I take stock and consider the choice that now faces me. If I'm going to push onwards, then this really is it. It's a coin flip for life or death. There's not much air left in the tank, and if I climb this pipe to discover the worst, if the pipe has been stoppered or plugged, then definitively for me, there will be no way out. I really will reach a dead end. All hope will be lost, and I will drown down here with nowhere to go, no way forwards and no way back. I shake my head. There's no choice here, not really. It's just willpower. I don't have enough air in my tank to get back to Ahmed, even if I wanted to. It's only forwards, forwards and upwards. All right, I murmur, bubbles spilling. Here we go. And I begin my slow, deliberate ascent, back pressed against the pipe behind me, knees and calves against the pipe in front. Up I go, kicking at times, half swimming, half shimmying up the pipe to the surface, slowly but surely, grimacing through the strain and the pain. And still, so dark, so unbelievably dark. The lack of light does not fill me with confidence. If the pipe was not stoppered, surely I'll be able to see some light, right? I open my eyes in the water. The salt and oil stings like hell, but I need to see, or to try and see at least. But there's nothing. There's no hint of light at all. Don't lose faith, I tell myself, screwing my eyes shut again. Keep going, keep going. This vertical section of pipe is unlike the one we were stuck down. This part here goes all the way up to the surface, up to the bustle and the relative commotion of Azrakwan. Except it won't be bustling right now, of course. I hesitate, taking a deep, strained breath through the mouthpiece, grunting with the strain. Thinking about it, the place could be entirely deserted. I don't even know what time it is. I've been crawling through the pipe for hours upon hours. I'm not sure of the exact time, but I'm exhausted, I'm starving, and my oxygen is about to expire. If I recall correctly, in fact, the site won't even be open tomorrow. I rack my brains and try to remember. When were they all off-site? Was it tomorrow or the day after? Damn, what if everyone's gone back to shore? What if the site is empty? What if there's no one to hear me? What if the pipe is stopped? What if... I bellow in frustration and continue my ascent. Each breath becomes hard work. I'm starting to feel lightheaded, but there's nowhere to go but up. This section of pipe can't be longer than 80 meters or so. So surely, if it was open, I'd see the light, right? Wouldn't I see the light? Please, I whisper as I open my eyes again, squinting through the darkness, terrified that at any second I will hit a barrier or a stop and my journey will come to an abrupt and bitter end. Any second, at any moment, I could strike the ceiling and I'll be trapped. In the very next second, I emerge from the water. I hear the sounds of splashing as my head breaks free of the surface. I'm still in complete darkness, but I've reached the top. Air. I pull off the mouthpiece and suck it all down, refilling my lungs with far greater ease, rubbing and brushing the oily waters from my face and eyes. I made it, I say to no one in particular, my voice echoing around the narrow little space afforded me. Now I have to come to perhaps the final hurdle. How cruel it would be, I think. How cruel to make it so far and then to be denied rescue. So close and yet so far. I squirm and bring up my good arm with my good hand. I reach it above me, feeling through the darkness as the water spills and drips from my elbow. A few inches above my head, I feel the lid of the pipe, screwed tight shut. My heart starts pounding again. Come on, please, please. I search desperately for a release mechanism or a valve that will open the pipe from the inside. But alas, just as I suspected, there is no such valve. I bring up my other hand and try to force open the lid. I try to spin it, to shift it, but nothing works. Nothing at all. And there will be no one on the other side. Why would there be? Their shift is over. They'll have left the site by now, crossed back to the shore. I'm stuck. After everything, I'm just as trapped as Amir and as Ahmed. I started pounding desperately on the lid. I bang the pipe as hard as I can. I start to scream. I start shouting, though the sounds will be muffled. From the outside, my shouts for help would just sound like a load of moaning and groaning, potentially even mistaken for the general rumble of the pipe itself. Help! I scream, slamming both fists on the metal with all my remaining force, not caring for the spikes of pain that shoot through my broken wrist. Panic threatens to overtake me. Now, at this final stage of my journey. Help! I cry, slamming the lid, kicking the pipe, making as much noise as I am able before my constitution breaks. Anyone? I roar into the darkness, and with the sound of a great and sudden grinding directly above my head, the lid shifts, and a curved crack of light spills blindingly into the pipe. I gasp with astonishment, the wind taken from my sails, and I slump back down into the water with a splash. My eyes are forced closed, and the world beyond my sealed eyelids is a dazzling orange red. I don't even know what to say. I'm too afraid to believe what is happening. I sense someone talking to me. Their voice is confused and alarmed. They grab me by the diving suit, by the shoulders, and with some considerable degree of effort, they haul me out and onto the platform that surrounded the pipe's exit. I'm unable to help myself from weeping. I still cannot see, but the tears streak the salt and the oil from my face. I've never felt so free. I turn and wince and stretch my arms and legs in ways that they were unable for what felt like ages. I feel a hand squeeze my shoulder. A bottle of cool, refreshing, and above all, clean water is gently poured over my face. "Kadar?" comes a familiar voice. "Kadar, what on earth?" He fumbles for words. "Care to explain yourself, Kadar? What the hell is this?" I finally manage to open my eyes, just a sliver, gradually, painfully adjusting to the light from the flood lamps all around. And I'm greeted by the sight of the only employee still at his station, long after his shift has come to an end. He stares at me, his scruffy red hair and his beard a mess, his expression almost comical in confusion. A dry chuckle escapes my lips. "Hello, Zahir," I mutter. "You know, I don't think I've ever been happier to see anyone in my entire life." And this, my friends, is the truth. The hours that followed passed by in a whirlwind. The company and the authorities were alerted immediately, and the helicopters were sent up into the sky, and rescue boats were out in the water within the hour. The ruined habitat site was investigated and safely secured. Vast teams of divers were sent down, and they traversed the entire length of the pipe, way into the night, knocking and tapping on the metal and hunting diligently for Amir and Ahmad. Knocking and tapping on the metal and hunting diligently for Amir and Ahmad. There was, tragically, no response. I remember pacing up and down in one of the control rooms, fielding calls from family in the presence of several officers and officials as the pressure in the pipe was carefully leveled, as it was disconnected at the safest point and open for inspection. I remember the way I reacted when I was told the news the next morning. After a long and sleepless night, arm bandaged. I remember the breath escaping me. I remember collapsing into the nearest chair. "That's impossible," I murmured. "There's no way." But the bodies of Amir and Ahmad were discovered together about 10 or so meters north from where we were suckered down. It was ruled that the two men died on impact with the pipe, almost instantaneously. It's likely they weren't even aware of what happened. Their last conscious moments, I'm told, most probably took place in the habitat itself before the disaster. To this, I say nothing. I simply look out of the window as the morning sun reflects and glimmers, sparkling in the gentle waves of the sea far below.